I'm Gab. He's Jules. Blue skies over West London. What a show we have, Jules. Because it's getting closer.
It's just here, man.
It's just here.
Yeah.
The Premier League or La Liga has actually started in dribs and drabs, but we'll be bringing a bit of the Liga preview, bit of Liga preview, bit of Serie A preview. Bundesliga 9. We're gonna wait another week because just like you guys are keeping us waiting. But we're gonna start at the top, talking about the Premier League preview. Pretty straight standard stuff. I find it remarkable, right? And there's an obvious reason why. Arsenal are the bookies' overwhelming favorites, but not by a little, but by a lot. And it's obvious why. They were in the Champions League final last year. They won the Premier League last year. They've had the same manager. I think he's now the longest serving manager in the Premier League, if I'm not mistaken. They have stability, and they spent a lot of money most recently. Ezri Konsa. Everybody else either has a new manager or has a guy who was an interim guy last year, or was there for a couple of weeks, like the Zerbi. And the teams all feel really incomplete.
Yeah.
The transfer window shuts in 11 days, so I think stuff can still happen. But it's a weird place to be in.
Yeah, I think so. I think the gap between Arsenal and the rest has gone bigger in the summer due to all the factors that you mentioned, Gabby. First, I think they're good summer in terms of recruitment. Yes, they lost Trossard and Saliba to an injury, so arguably their best player is not there for the start of the season. But Bruno Guimaraes and Solis and Konsana, I think, are very positive signings and make that team and that squad better, stronger, with more depth. And then you look at the others, and there's always question marks when a new manager arrives in a top club, especially. We all know that, and that goes for City with Maresca, for Liverpool with Iraola, for Chelsea with Xabi Alonso, and even for Spurs and United, as you say. Carrick was there in January, but the Zerbi has been there 2 minutes at the end of last season. And the recruitment, I think, varies differently between all those teams. I think Spurs have been great, Chelsea have been great, but there's a lot of things still to do for City, still to do for Liverpool, and probably for United as well. So I think I was on the FC show on Monday night, and we all said the gap is big now. It feels like between Arsenal, the massively favourite to retain the title, and the rest behind.
Yeah, and the gap is big, and I want to stress, I have to think that these transfer windows are incomplete. I have to think that Liverpool are going to bring somebody in.
Yeah, sure.
I have to think, well, United, we know, are looking to bring somebody in. Chelsea need to ship a bunch of guys out because otherwise chickens are really coming home to roost in a big way. We had to do our predictions for the website. I made the point, like, I reserve the right to change all this because everything can change.
Of course.
But I just want to emphasize how it makes everything so much harder, especially for these incoming coaches, right? Because these guys were locked up a long time ago. Iraola knew in June that he was coming. And I think he would have fairly expected, okay, let's put our ducks in a row. We know Ekitike is out until January. We want this, we want that. And they all talk about there's a lack of time to work and everything. They're in European competition, which gives you even less time. Now you don't have the players to work. How are you supposed to create the chemistry? How are you supposed to create the automatism that's required out there? Like, sometimes I find this sport really frustrating because you pay coaches a lot of money and then you don't give them the tools. And I think this is reflected this year. I don't think it's a coincidence that it doesn't automatically mean that just because if you keep a guy there for a long time, he's going to get better every year. It doesn't work that way either. But you have to have a plan. And I look at this, and especially when it comes to Liverpool and United, Chelsea have been a basket case for a long time. This is really disappointing. And City too, because also they knew Pep was leaving.
Yeah,
right?
I think so, yeah. I think it's tough. I remember Iraola maybe a month ago after one of the early friendlies saying, I need more players now. I need more signings, more arrivals. And it's been difficult for them to sign the players that they want. And again, I admire in a way that you've got plan A, plan B, plan C for a position, and you are chasing plan A, great. At some point, if you can't get plan A with 10 days to go, maybe it's time to go to plan B or even plan C, even if they're not as good. Or you don't have a plan B and C and you just wait another 6 months for plan A. Sure, we've seen that in the past. That has worked certainly very well with the Van Dijk at Liverpool. But you look at those squads and they're clearly incomplete. And if we find them incomplete, all the Liverpool fans or other clubs, not just Liverpool, will find them incomplete, and so will be the manager.
Yeah, and when we talk about incomplete, like, I'm not just saying, oh, no, go and spend money, bring in players. I know any moron can do that. I'm talking about especially when we have Iraola, who shares some aspects with Slot and Klopp, but is a different coach. You're coming in, and I don't want to pick on him because it's true of other clubs too. You need time to work so you come up with a presentable team. Otherwise, your team's not going to be the real team until October. Anyway, we're going to break this down further on the Gab and Juls podcast and also do something I don't like doing, predictions. All right, Jules, I'm going to come out and say it when we did our predictions. And we're going to get more into predictions later. I did not pick Arsenal to win the title, and I gave myself the caveat, it's still so early this season, for the simple reason that it's extremely difficult to repeat in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Especially difficult for Arsenal to repeat in the Premier League, something they haven't done since 1936, I believe, when I think Herbert Chapman was the manager, a little bit before my time. Herbert Chapman, by the way, who won 3 league titles in a row. Anyway, so I said, all right, well, then I'll pick City because, Erling Haaland, blah, 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 and they have money. I look at it now, and I don't like my City pick at all. And I ask myself, and again, there's time in the window, so they can fix this. They can bring people in. But I almost feel like City are second favorites just because everybody else just looks so far away. We don't know what to think. We don't know what to expect. We don't know how Manchester United are going to work when Carrick has to start coaching twice a week.
Yeah. But it's City as well, and even without Pep, even without Rodri or Bernardo Silva, and they've gone through this process of getting younger player because their squad needed to be younger, and they arrived at the end of a cycle. I think we said that already last summer. But it's still City. There's still a savoir-faire. Maresca was there as an assistant before. He's a very different personality to Pep. And I think it will work. It's a work in progress. It will maybe take a little bit of time to get everybody fully sharp and match fit, as we saw in the Community Shield. Like Haaland is far from that, for example.
We should also say, for bigger, heavier players, it always takes them more time to achieve that sharpness, even with the sports.
But Haaland has always been great in August. The guy always starts seasons great. This is a bit different because he's had a World Cup for the first time ever to deal with, and he hasn't played a single second in preseason like you and I, basically. We played as much for City in preseason than he did. So it's difficult. But Maresca is a good coach. They will still have a great squad. They will get there. It will take a bit of time, maybe. But I've got no issue. I really have no worries in the sense that they are, for me, still the strongest contender to Arsenal and the most likely to be the one pushing them the most. I would have Chelsea quite close because I really believe in Xabi Alonso and what he wants to do. And some of the players they've signed, I think, are very smart signings. But City, I think, have to be the second favorite.
Yeah, I had Chelsea in the top 4 as well, based largely on Xabi Alonso. And also the fact that, and I think this always gets underestimated, the importance of not playing midweek football, not playing, not having those 8 Champions League or Europa League fixtures. It just takes a lot out of you, especially when you're a new coach. You can find your rhythm. That said, given the chaos at Chelsea that now we have behind the scenes with players needing to go, I'm not 100% confident that Chelsea are going to make a quantum leap to, forget Arsenal's level, to Man City's level in one season. I look further back, Tottenham, I just feel like they have to make up so much ground. This is a team that finished 1 spot above relegation last year.
Yeah.
And it also feels like it's a team that I don't want to say that the transfer activity has been outsourced to agents to move people on and whatnot. And you could definitely say the same thing about Chelsea, right? The joke is that Ali Barat is now the 6th director of football at the club. But I think it takes a lot out of it. I think giving the Zerbi so much latitude is not a good thing. Not when you've been there 3-4. It's not a good thing, I think, ever, with very few exceptions.
Maybe it was the only way, I don't know. And we will see, to be fair. I think they will have a really good season. No Europe, again, I think is massive for them. Some of the signings like Van Heck and Senesi, even Robertson in midfield with Tonali and your boy, Matheus Fernandes, who you love. I think, and it's not finished, by the way. They will add a winger. They will add a number 9.
We'll be talking about that later.
Yeah. Whether they've overpaid or not, whether they didn't spend well, as in didn't spend their money well overall, is another issue. but I think they will have a super competitive squad. Already you see the progress they've made with the ball, and I think they will be very difficult to play against. They will lead goals, I think. They will score loads of goals too. And I think it will be a great ride for them. I expect them to finish top 6 because I think they really have everything for it. But there's also the De Zerbi factor that at some point things could implode. It could go a bit crazy. It would be really fun to watch.
Fun to watch. Will Manchester United be fun to watch?
I think so. I believe in Carrick. There's the momentum from last season where they were really probably even the second best team after behind Arsenal, even probably better than City over the 6 months where Carrick took over January to May, a bit less than 6 months. You will carry that momentum. It's the same squad, really.
Well, except for midfield.
Yeah, except for Casemiro, but Casemiro is always expected to leave. So then you've added Tielemans and Andre Santos. Then maybe Baleba might come. You've got Rashford who is back, and we're not sure in what kind of mindset. But I think a good Rashford is an added value, even as a super sub to your squad. The rest, and Bomo is there and should be better. Bruno is still there in his peak years. Sesko should be better. You even have like a Zirkzee type that is a different profile to what you have, that if you use well, could maybe add you a few goals off the bench, which I think is valuable. And defensively, okay, maybe defensively, but De Ligt is back. Euro should be better. And if they sign a decent left back to back up Shaw or be in competition with Shaw, then I think they've got a really good squad.
I don't see it. I think this is a squad which has some serious flaws, and maybe Michael Carrick can make it work.
I mean, he made it work already last season.
Yes and no. I would argue. I would argue that United were getting results. I don't think, especially as the season wore on, that last bit of the season when City tailed off and United kind of kept winning. Weirdly, I think actually United probably played better in February and March than they did in April and May. So obviously the results kept coming. We say, oh, it's all about results. But the reason I always favor performance, and performance I think gives you a much better indication of what's going to come than what came before.
But they had those as well. The game at Arsenal was really good.
I don't know. I think
it was great.
I think you need right. We already talked about the fact that they have to play in Europe as well.
Yeah.
I think you need a quantum leap forward from Benjamin Sesko. I think if Cunha is your center forward, I mean Cunha will play.
Yeah, he'd be Mbomo. And Mbomo played as a number 9 in preseason, so he'd be the backup number 9 for Sesko.
If Mbeumo plays, but that's a completely different profile, and it's Brian Mbeumo, by the way. I want to say it with. Well. I'm saying it was the greatest of respect, but it's Brian Mbeumo asking him to be your center forward. Sesko has a higher ceiling. Sesko also has a pretty lower floor because when Sesko's not working, Sesko doesn't work, right? That would be my concern, and obviously the other big concern is in central midfield. I don't know what happened with the Ederson deal. He signed a new contract with Atalanta just yesterday. He spoke about it. He said he passed his medical. He doesn't know what happened. Now we'll see. Again, we're going to talk about Baleba later, but to me, you are gambling. You're taking a lot of gambles. And when you're talking about...
I don't think Tielemans is a gamble. I don't think Tielemans is a gamble at all.
If he has this season that he had, Tielemans' career has been marked by ups and downs.
Well, not in the last 3 years. He's only been up with Villa. He hasn't been down.
Yeah, but Tielemans before Villa, when he was in the prime of his career, was a guy who's been up and he's been down.
He's very much in his prime, Tielemans, right now. He's like, I don't have any worries about Tielemans, which I think is going to be great for United. But so I don't see it. I think Baleba could be a smart signing. You know, I like Andre Santos more than a lot of people, and I might be wrong.
Right. And you're big on Kobe.
I like Kobe if you use him well. It's always the same. And last season when Carrick used him well, we saw very good Kobe. I don't know what happened at the World Cup, why he didn't get any minutes at all. But I think he's a very good player if you use him on his qualities.
And his qualities are different from the other central midfielders that they have, which to me can be good with the right manager, can be bad in the sense that if you're going to play 2 out of those 3, then assuming Tielemans always plays, but if it's going to be 2 out of those 3, then you're bringing in a guy who has a different skill set, and then when you have more of a system coach, that means you have to make an adjustment. When you have more of a guy who can say, like, I'm so good at coaching that I can bring this guy in and everybody can adjust because suddenly there's a different type of threat, there's a different profile there, then it can be a positive. I just don't have this faith in Carrick that he is that guy to do that, as opposed to having a system that you execute. That would be my concern. And obviously the other big concern is in central midfield. I don't know what happened with the Ederson deal. He signed a new contract with Atalanta just yesterday. He spoke about it. He said he passed his medical. He doesn't know what happened. Now we'll see. Again, we're going to talk about Baleba later, but to me, you are gambling. You're taking a lot of gambles. And when you're talking about,
I don't think Tielemans is a gamble. I don't think Tielemans is a gamble at all.
If he has this season that he had, Tielemans' career has been marked by ups and downs.
Well, not in the last 3 years. He's only been up with Villa. He hasn't been down.
Yeah, but Tielemans before Villa, when he was in the prime of his career, was a guy who's been up and he's been down.
I don't very much in his prime. Tielemans right now. He's like, I don't have any worries about Tielemans. I think he's going to be great for United, but so I don't see it. I think Baleba could be a smart signing. You know, I like Andre Santos more than a lot of people, and I might be wrong.
Right. And you're big on Kobe.
I like Kobe if you use him well. It's always the same. And last season when Carrick used him well, we saw very good Kobe. I don't know what happened at the World Cup, why he didn't get any minutes at all. But I think he's a very good player if you use him on his qualities.
And his qualities are different from the other central midfielders that they have, which to me can be good with the right manager, can be bad in the sense that if you're going to play 2 out of those 3, then assuming Tielemans always plays, but if there's going to be 2 out of those 3, then you're bringing in a guy who has a different skill set. And then when you have more of a system coach, that means you have to make an adjustment. When you have more of a guy who can say, like, I'm so good at coaching that I can bring this guy in and everybody can adjust because suddenly there's a different type of threat, there's a different profile there, then it can be a positive. I just don't have this faith in Carrick that he is that guy to do that, as opposed to having a system that you execute. That would be my concern with United. That's why I'm not sure about United finishing top 4. I may put them back into the top 4 because of what's going on at Chelsea right now. But I think this is, for most of the league, this is going to be a transition season.
Yeah.
For Arsenal, I think this is clearly consolidation season. I think there's some nerd deep at Arsenal who looked at trends and said, wait a minute, and then went to Berta, and Arteta says, all right, if you guys want to double down by chucking even more money than we've spent before, this is the time to do it, because this is where we can put our foot on the neck of the opposition.
I mean, they didn't need to look at the trends. I think everybody knew that this was the moment for Arsenal to dominate. And I think this is it where it's on them. I think the pressure is almost as high as it was last season after 3 second places where they were expected to win the title finally after all that time, 22 years. And now the expectations is for them to retain it. And I won't say to do it easily, because it's the Premier League and nothing is easy and it won't be easy for them. But they should really do it. They are the best team. They have the best squad. They have the stability and the consistency and the momentum. There's no really, apart from Saliba, which I think is a big negative, but still, there's no, everything else is like green lights.
Looking at the bottom end of the table, and you follow the championship, I don't. I'm reserving judgment on who's going down until I actually see these guys play. But I did look at the bookies' odds. Nobody seems to believe in poor Hull City.
No,
Is it 3 up, 3 down, you think? Or
I think if there's one team amongst Coventry, Ipswich and Hull that stays up, is Coventry. Big investment, over £100 million spent already on 8 players. Some really interesting young ones like Caleb Yerenki that we saw with Ghana at the World Cup, like Siddiqui Sheriff, that obviously if you watch Ligue 1 you know really well. Young potentials, a bit more experience as well as arrived. It's Frank Lampard, who you would hope has learned from what he did well before and not so well in the Premier League. And I think for me, they were by far the best team in the Championship last year, better than Ipswich, better than Hull City. So they probably have the biggest chance to stay up and do a Sunderland in a way. But even if they finish 17th, they'll be very happy with that. Ipswich is a new manager in Gary O'Neill. Again, some interesting signings in some positions with a bit of experience, Premier League proven, like it's a job, for example. And for her, it's a bit different. It's signings with not much budget. Like, I think them going up was never the plan, and it's probably way too early, or was way too early. So I think they struggled. Ipswich probably too, but Coventry, I think they've got hopes.
So the reason I was a little higher on Ipswich, and as I understand it, Kieran McKenna leaving is a blow, is that some hardcore numbers people who I know and respect told me that when they came up last time, their signings and their outlook were, it was almost like these are signings for a team that wants to get not wants to get relegated, but that expects to be relegated, and then will come back stronger a year later. And they told me about, and they raved about how smart the people at the club were. Now, obviously, they weren't. Presumably, they didn't plan on McKenna leaving.
No, yeah.
So O'Neill's going to have to pick up that legacy. I look at the other teams in the Premier League, and I do wonder, just because I don't think he's a good coach from the 6 months I saw him at Real Madrid, and I appreciate Real Madrid's very different from Fulham, other than the fact that they both play in white. Could Fulham drop into that group? Are they the likeliest? Is
Maybe.
it Sunderland?
No.
Is it West Ham?
I mean, West Ham are done already.
No, I just
so
I'm saying. I mean, to do a West Ham. I meant. Sorry.
No, I don't. No, I mean, I see Fulham's squad, and again, I think there's enough talent there for them to stay up and not be in that bottom three. I think Sunderland, okay, we'll have to cope with Europe, but again, they've made some smart signings, and I think Regis Lebris is building on what was there last season with a lot of stability too among the key players, and that's very important. So I don't expect them to go down. You could look at Newcastle and thinking they're not going to go down, but thinking, okay, what is Jasler going to do? Are they going to trouble? Are they going to be like between 10 and 15? Which would be also interesting to follow. But I do think there's a gap between even the weakest of those Premier League, more established teams and the three that went up from the Championship.
All right, one team that did not change their manager and has been confounding experts for the last couple of years are Aston Villa and Unai Emery. I look at they're 33-1. They're the next highest outside of the traditional Big Six. And by the way, when we talk about Big Six, it's all about revenue. It's not about nothing other than revenue. That's all it is, right? I'm talking about how big a club is, size of your fan base. It's all just revenue. Can he do it again? Like, can he sneak Villa? Given, I mean, we can point out so many flaws in Spurs and Chelsea and United and Liverpool right now, and the rebuilds and the new coaches. Can he do it again? Can he ride that stability into the top four or close to it?
Yeah, close to it, sure. But losing the players that they lost is tough. You know, no Konsa. Okay, Ding maybe not so much.
Morgan Rogers is the big one.
Rogers are the ones.
Maybe
really.
Watkins too.
Maybe Watkins too, yeah. And who you replace them with? Who you replace them with? Tielemans, obviously, we mentioned earlier. Because you will sign a Joe Gomez, for example, who I think is a smart signing from them, but he's not ready yet to be at the kind of level of the players that you lost. You know, same with Manzambi, great World Cup, really good at Freiburg. He's injured, and then when he comes back,
Onana's injured too. He's going to be out a long time.
The Joe Gomez is also to cover more Onana, to be fair, than Tielemans, but. It's that, and they will need a bit of time to get those new signings, especially the younger ones who don't have the Premier League experience, up to the level that they need them to be. So there's a point where he won't be able to do it. And don't forget that last season it's easier to play in the Europa League and in the league than it is to play in the Champions League and in the league for obvious reasons. And that made their season easier domestically, I thought, last season than they would be this year. But it's still a great ride. The fans will be there. They are refurbishing Villa Park and all of that. So it's a very exciting time to be an Aston Villa fan and an Aston Villa player or director or manager.
And Matteo Ruggeri's coming too to make things even more exciting.
But I think that what they've showed though, and with sporting director changing quite regularly, is how smart they were with the signing. So there's no reason why they won't be able to do it again. Certainly like a top 6 finish, but.
We should say they, like Chelsea, are under a UEFA settlement and they're Newcastle. Under PCR restrictions and Newcastle, and it is much harder to operate. These rules exist for a reason. but it just does mean that they have a lot less latitude. And
Yeah.
if you show up with a bag of cash like Arsenal did with Konza, then
You have to accept.
you have to probably
Yeah,
accept.
yeah, of course.
All right, predictions. I will caveat this. We're recording this. It's August 20th. The window's still open. I reserve the right to change all my predictions. I'm going to keep my top four. I'm going to go City, Arsenal. Just City and Arsenal. No.
You can go for your top two, really.
Yeah. I'm going to go City, Arsenal, Liverpool, and Chelsea.
Okay, so United
No,
in
I
fifth.
don't.
Not even in fifth?
I don't like these players as much as you do. I don't see Carrick's track record as positively as you do. I think when you don't play in Europe, you can come up with some kind of bogus results.
Yeah. Fair enough. I've got Arsenal winning the league. I've got City second still. I've got Chelsea third because I believe in Xabi Alonso. Then between Liverpool and United, I'm waiting to see what Liverpool do next, obviously. But I'll happy have United now and for now in that fourth spot, Liverpool in fifth, and Spurs and Villa battling out for sixth place. But I can easily have Liverpool ahead of United too. But I do believe in Carrick and in Xabi Alonso, to be fair.
And like I said, guys, before you turn into haters, it's for now. It's August 20th. The window's still open.